Just because people believe in Jesus doesn't mean Jesus actually exists. Now, this is a part two to the video that I just talked about, how one of the Christian apologists is trying to say that Josephus's work is facts or evidence of Jesus. But in the first part of his statement, he talked about how the impact that Jesus has had on the world would indicate that this person actually existed, that this biblical version of this person actually existed. And how can a skeptic in any shape or form deny that? Well, you can't deny it. You cannot deny that the belief in the Jesus character, the biblical version of the Jesus character, has impacted the world tremendously. I would even go so far as to say in our modern day that the story of Jesus has been one of the most impactful stories in the last 2,000 years. I'll give you the whole 2,000, even though it really doesn't start until about 325. I'm gonna give you the whole 2,000. That this belief in this character, this biblical creation, has impacted the world greatly, both positively and negatively. It has impacted the world. But it is not like the Jesus character lives in a vacuum. Because just looking at our modern world, the character of Muhammad, whether he lived in reality or not, whether his teachings are true or not, the impact that the ideas and the teachings of Muhammad, going from being Mohammedans to Islam, has just as greatly impacted the world, especially in the last 100 years. And I can see that the teachings of Muhammad are going to impact the world, whether positively or negatively, just as much as the teachings of Jesus over the next 100 to 200 years. Because as Islam becomes the dominant religion in the world, and as Islam has become the source, the religion of countries that are big political players in the world, we're going to see that teaching will have just as much impact as the Jesus teachings. But does he live in a vacuum? No, he does not. Because you can also go back and look at the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, who is the Buddha, the first Buddha. And the teachings of the Buddha, which has lasted up until today, which is probably the fourth or fifth largest religion in the world, has impacted the world greatly since the belief in his teachings. It has changed countries, it has changed mentalities, it has changed how people live. All of them have changed those things. But Buddhism has impacted the world just as greatly. And for a while before Christianity ever came about, Buddhism had more impact than Christianity. Now, if you only look at it from a Mediterranean mindset, then you're going to always gear towards Christianity. But when you look at it from a larger world perspective and see what was going on in that area of Asia, then you will see that Buddha had just as large of an impact. But even larger than that is the teachings of Brahma, the Indus teachings. So Krishna and Brahma being the God, Krishna being the Son of God version, the Messiah type, Krishna had just as large of an impact as Christianity, but just in the Asian portions of the world, mostly in that India subcontinent area and the islands thereabout and other countries surrounding it. And we see that influence is also here in the Americas and the Western world. So Brahma and Krishna have had large impact that have been sustained longer than the Jesus impact in this world. So Jesus is not in a vacuum where only his teachings have molded the world. The reason why Western mindset and Western culture is more dominant than any other culture in the world right now is because of war. It's because of conquest. It's because of colonization. It is not because of evangelizing. It is not because of humanitarian efforts. It's through war. It is through killing that Christianity has become the most dominant religion. It is through force, not through people's willingness just to come over to it because they heard a good word. So no, Christianity can be looked at by skeptics to see that it has a large impact, but it does not validate that it's true. Because if that is the case, then you would have to say the teachings of Muhammad and Allah true because of the impact that it has had on the world. The teachings of Brahma and Krishna true must have existed because of the impact that it's had on the world. Siddhartha Gautama, true, the Buddha is real, happened, sat under a Bodhi tree and saw all 10,000 lives that he had lived, and then was attacked by a demon. And then he defeated those demons. True, had to have happened because of the impact that he's had on the world. Everybody knows who the Dalai Lama is. So it must be true, according to that mindset. But obviously a Christian would say it's not true, just as much as a Muslim would say it's not true, or anybody else would say that the other alternative religions are not true because of that same thing, because of if they took the same idea. Because everybody wants to hold on to theirs as truth and everybody else is false. And if we went even further back in the Greek world, Hercules or Heracles, who probably was the king of Argos, who then became legendized, must be true, because look at the impact that Hercules and Zeus and Athena had on the Greek civilization. Ra, Heru, Asar, Aset must be true, must be real. Look at the impact that Egypt had on society for over 3,000 years. Jesus ain't got to 3,000 yet. He ain't got to 3,000 yet. But the Kemetic society was 3,000 years of dominance and world think and ideologies. The world, the Western world, the Mediterranean world came to Egypt to learn, came to Egypt to gain the mysteries, went back as Pythagoras came and spent 20 years and then went back and then started to Creighton, I think it's Creighton, went back to his home country and then initiated the school of Pythagoreans and then helped develop and build the Greek societies. So then Ra has had a greater impact than Jesus, because without Ra, you don't get the growth of the Mediterranean societies. You don't get the development of the Mesopotamia without Ra, in accordance to how this gentleman was speaking. You can even give the same credibility to Enlil and Enki, and then the Canaanite god, El, and his wife Asherah. So you see how that logic just don't logic? That math just ain't mathing. Because it takes a critical eye without a landing point in order to truly see what reality is. When you walk around with blinders on, you're only going to see what you are already preconceived and predetermined that things are going to be. So open your eyes and recognize, or rather open your single eye and recognize that the world is bigger, that history is much larger and deeper, and that there are more connections throughout the centuries that have developed whatever we have today. So open your single eye and let it be clear, as your Bible tells you, so that you can see the true reality that the Jesus character, which is a literary character, has had a great impact in recent times, but that does not validate him to have walked and been a real person who walked on water, turned water into wine, and did all these other things. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.